Are back at Montana's Ribbon Chop House for Cat Chat. At Montana's Ribbon Chop House, our staff is dedicated to creating extraordinary experiences that raise the bar in each of our communities. Enjoy premium steaks, fresh seafood, award-winning baby back ribs. We look forward to sharing a little Rocky Mountain hospitality with you. I'm Keaton Galogli alongside head coach Danny Sprinkle. It's a 4-0 weekend between the men and the women, and right now we're talking about the second win this weekend for the men. They take down Sacramento State 72-65. And, Coach, this was a fascinating basketball game for two reasons in my mind. A, there was one lead change in this game, and that came with about 15 minutes to go, or maybe 13 minutes to go in the first half. After they had a strong run, you guys took the lead in the middle of that first half, and you never relinquished it despite some big scoreboard pressure from them at the end of the game.
Yeah, we played really well, especially, that last 15 minutes of the first half, but I thought it all started with, obviously Jabril Bello. Raekwon and Darius were scoring it, but the screens that he was setting and the energy that he played with defensively, he got a big steal and a dunk, but offensively, the activity that he played with in setting screens, he got us like 5 wide open jump shots that got those two guys going. Raekwon doesn't score 32 without that. And so, I thought that was huge. Obviously, we need those guys to make those shots, but I thought we played with tremendous, energy that game.
So the other interesting point in this game, I think, is it was such a departure from the style of basketball we see everywhere, across every level.
Yep.
Montana State went 4 of 8 from 3, and Sac State went 4 of 9 from 3. That may be like one of the fewest three-point field goal attempts by two teams in a game across the entire nation. Like, you just don't see that much these days.
No, you don't. Especially, you see a bunch of threes and layups, and thank goodness they only made 4 and that we finally, shot a good percentage.
Right. Well, and really overall it was actually a pretty good weekend for you guys from the three-point line. I mean, you ended up hitting 10 over those 2 games and shot close to 50%. So even though it wasn't a lot of threes taken, it did just kind of feel like, all right, this is all you need in order to keep hitting some shots from downtown.
It was, and we were taking good shots. Both games, there wasn't too many shots that, you could classify as a bad shot or a rush shot. And, that's why our percentages were really good. We got the ball inside, which is our game, and we got to the free throw line a lot. And especially when you have a lead in the last 5 minutes, you're putting pressure on the opponent to foul you, and guys did a tremendous job knocking down free throws.
Yeah, Raekwon Battle leading the way in that. Battle this weekend went 15 for 15 from the free throw line. That is impressive stuff. And I don't know that I ever feel anybody quite, like I'm never feeling as confident as I do when Raekwon Battle's at the line for those free throws. They almost never even hit the rim.
They don't, and he's a tremendous shooter. I start to feel that way about all of our guys. Jabril, Darius is shooting in the high 80s. Like, I don't expect him to ever miss, to be honest. Like, when it does, it's kind of a shock to me.
Yeah, 24 of 28 in this game from the free throw line, and particularly in that second half, 20 of 24. And Raekwon Battle was the closer in this ballgame. He had 12 points in the final 5 minutes on his way to a career high 32 points. Did a lot of that at the free throw line. Got to the line a ton, as we mentioned, 12 of 12. But I think the biggest kind of action play he had was that one where he came off the screen from Osabor, kind of weaved his way into the lane. He got their big man up in the air, and he adjusted in the air. So we got McCray to kind of commit in the air, and because Raekwon levitates instead of jumps, he kind of adjusted there. That was just a magical little layup.
He did. That was the it was kind of a side out of bounds play. Or actually it was out of a timeout, and we were going to run that play against man because they had never shown zone all year. And they came out and they went zone because there was about 20 seconds left on the shot clock. And it's good because it's a play you can run against zone too. And so our guys just ran it, and great screen. And obviously, Raekwon is kind of like that Jordan play back in the day where he went up with one hand and finished with the other. But, that's how long he hung in the air. And it was a huge play because I think it was a 3 or a 4 point lead for us at that time.
Yep.
And it got us up to 5 or 6.
Right, and then they continued to put the pressure on. Chappelle had the 3 free throws but missed one or 2 out of that.
Which should never even been called.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't mind saying it. It was
you went back because they went back and reviewed it in the moment.
Yeah, it was an illegal screen that, dang near broke Robert Ford's nose, and he got called for 3 free throws.
So, that was one of those games for sure.
It is what it is.
But, hey, look, those are the things that happen, and it is frustrating, but you can't change it in the moment in a close game. You can't let your head sink and drop in those moments.
Yep, and luckily we had a big enough lead, and they missed the first one and then made the next 2. We did a great job in our press offense getting the ball, in, and we got it up to Ray, and he got fouled.
Yep, and he went, of course, and knocked down those free throws. But still, even at the end of the game, what did it come down to? After you hit your free throws, after you hit your shots, you had to get some stops. And this game essentially ended when Ford and Battle teamed up for a steal, kind of on that left side. I mean, Robert Ford's defense this entire weekend really seemed to stand out.
Yeah, he was tremendous. Even though he didn't score at Portland State or make a shot from the field, he had, I think, 5 assists and 1 turnover.
Yep.
But his defense, and he had like 3 steals that he pitched up to Great Osabar or Raekwon for dunks. And he did the same thing at Sac State. And so even though he's not getting credit for the points, they're directly affiliated with him and his defensive presence.
Yeah, he was a guy you told a story about earlier this year, too, when he thought he had played worse than he did. And you were like, no, this is a much better game than you think it is. Can you provide a little insight on how you evaluate some of these guys beyond the points and the field goal percentage, things that maybe fans aren't able to notice or keep track of?
Yeah, that's what we do as coaches. We know, like I said, Raekwon scored 32 points, and it was great. He scored 32. But he doesn't get those 32 points without Jabril screens, without Robert Ford getting a steal and throwing it up to him so he can dunk it, with us breaking our press offense and we throw it to him and he gets fouled, he gets rewarded for that. And so it's always a team effort, and Raekwon knows that. And there's lots of times where Jabril scores because of teams double teaming Raekwon or Darius. And so that's why you got to have multiple weapons, and we're very fortunate to have really good offensive players.
Yeah. So do you find kind of like when you do show players something outside of the flashy stats that now, once you tell them it's important, they start to kind of embrace that a little bit? Is that something that kind of happens?
Oh, yeah. We show it on film, every Monday following the games. Like, Sam Leck-a-lot.
Yes, he had some big moments.
He only played, 4 minutes in one of those games. He had 2 huge offensive rebounds. He boxed out their kid Muane at Sac State and drew his 5th foul.
Yep.
He got a huge offensive rebound and drew a foul on their big guy McCray. And those are huge plays in the game. And on the offensive rebound, he got 2 free throws and knocked him down. Mm-hmm. And so those are game-changing plays when you're getting the opponent's best players in foul trouble.
Yeah, and definitely needed it too because both Bello and Osabar had 4 fouls. At one point, you were playing them both on the floor at the same time with 4 fouls.
We had to.
That's all you got to do.
We did, and it's to give credit to Jabril, like nobody even knew he was going to play.
Yeah.
And nobody really knows, but he even came back with about 2 minutes left in the game. He went to the emergency room.
In the Portland State game,
and came back with 2 minutes left, and he's sitting here staring at me on the bench trying to get in the game. I was like, no, man, just sit right there.
Yeah.
But that's what type of competitor he is, and he wanted to be there for his teammates, and that's why he rushed back to be on the bench and cheer him on.
No doubt. Well, we're going to talk to that competitor here in just a moment. Danny, we're done with you. We're going to move on to Jabril Bello next.
You bet. Hey, I want to hear him too. He's a lot more exciting than me.
All right, Jabril Bello coming up after this timeout. We are on Cat Chat live from Montana's Rib and Chop House. Cat Chat is presented by Learfield. Welcome back to Catch It. We are live at Montana's Rib and Chop House. Montana's Rib and Chop House has been serving Rocky Mountain communities for over 20 years. Our ability to grow has come through our commitment to Rocky Mountain hospitality, a concept which incorporates a casual attitude with our commitment to loyalty, safety, service, and quality food. We hope you'll be a guest at one of our Montana locations soon. And a great time to be a guest here is every Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. for Catch It. We will let you know, though, we will not be doing a show on Valentine's Day. We will do that show the following day, that Wednesday, February 15th. So there is one show that is not on a Tuesday. That will be February 15th. So mark your calendar for that. All right, I'm Keaton Galogly, joined now by Jabril Bello. Jabril, how we doing? How we feeling?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to have you here, both at Rib and Chop House and just in general at Montana State.
Yeah, me too. Of course.
All right, let's start. We got to start with the hand injury. Tell us what happened. It was hard to see live, and all of a sudden you were just kind of off the floor. What happened on this injury?
So Rob, he got a tip on a loose ball. So I seen it. I tried to dive for it, and one of their players that he actually got the steal from, I think he ran the opposite direction as I reached for the steal because he didn't want to get hit by me.
Naturally, I wouldn't want to get hit by you either.
So I think my pinky got stuck either on his leg or something. I don't even remember like that, man. But
yeah,
I can't believe that happened though.
Yeah, so it cut the webbing on your finger.
Yeah.
And so you go back and Brett looks at it and says, "What? You got to go get some stitches?"
Yeah, I had to. It was.
Yeah.
I looked at it. So basically, I didn't even realize at first. It felt like a jammed finger.
Yeah.
So we go into the timeout because it's a media timeout, and he draws up the play. I look at the play, I'm locked in. I just think this whole time my finger's jammed, so
Right.
I can feel it, but I'm not looking at it.
Yeah, that's a normal injury. You deal with that all the time.
because I always get jammed fingers. And I come out the timeout, and then I just looked down, and my hand was split open. I said, wow, like, ref, look at this. Like, I couldn't believe it. And Andy came over, almost made him sick.
Andy Hill,
But,
yeah.
he couldn't take that much blood at once.
His
So,
knees started getting a little wobbly.
Yeah,
And so you had to actually leave and go to the ER?
yeah. No, I didn't leave.
Okay.
Like the arena. I just went to the bed, and
Okay.
I was lucky enough that the doctors could stitch me up. It was a hard place to stitch up.
Yeah.
So it kind of took longer than, they didn't even know what to do with this. We was all in shock just looking at it because, like, I don't even know how this happens. Like, you
Yeah.
know.
That's such a weird injury.
Yeah.
But then you came back, and, you looked like you were lobbying Danny. Like, you were ready to go and get back into that game?
Yeah, because to be fair, my hand was all numbed up, so I didn't even feel it.
Yeah,
I
you're good to
didn't
go
even
now.
feel it. So, I could have easily, gone in the game.
Yeah, but, the boys had opened up a 10-point lead at that point, so you
Yeah.
had to take your deep breath.
Yeah.
But then you're able to play at Sacramento State. How did it feel when you were playing there?
It's weird because I'm right-handed,
Right.
but I'm like great. Like, I prefer my left hand a
Yeah.
lot. I was watching some of my clips from before. Like, my left hand, I start with my left, and if it's feeling good, then that's when I start using my right. So it was kind of weird playing. I couldn't really catch the ball, or couldn't really pass or dribble. So yeah, it was kind of difficult. But I knew I had to make an impact, and
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a good defensive player, so there was a lot of things I could still do to the game.
Yeah, and you were going up against one of the best big men in the conference, Callum McRae. They're a 7-foot New Zealander. What was it like battling with him in the post this weekend?
It was good. He's a good player. It was definitely a challenge. I thought it was good competition, to be honest. If I stayed out of foul trouble, maybe I would have been in there more to guard him too, because I realized, he's a bigger guy, slower feet. So I found ways to, attack that as well.
Yeah. This was one of the few games we've actually seen you in some foul trouble. For the most part, you've been great.
Yeah,
You've been
yeah.
able to stay on the floor, and that is something we've talked a little bit about with Great O support, because when you guys are on the floor, like, it's hard to beat you. And so when he can stay on the floor, that's obviously a huge advantage. What have you shared with him? How have you talked to him about kind of staying out of foul trouble, staying disciplined? Like, what are some of the words you've shared with him?
You know, Grace Young, he's a quick learner, which I love.
Yeah.
I feel like with me, it's so easy to communicate with Great, you know, because like we practically do the same things, you know, we're the same position kind of. And he listens. So I just tell him the rules. You know, he's young. He doesn't know all the rules yet
Yeah.
of the post. So, you know, you have to tell him, like, I give him little, like, cheats that I do. And I, like, show it on the court. Like, you know, and then I point to him. I'm like, did you see what I did? You know, like that. And he, like, yeah. He gets it. And he immediately just does it on the court, too, which I love. So, yeah, you know, we just share tips with each other. He tells me what he sees, and I tell him what I see.
Yeah, it's been fun watching the way he's continued to grow, and he's such a unique talent. I feel like his footwork is just otherworldly.
Yeah.
What do you see from Great? Like, what makes him a special player?
You know, Grace, he thinks he's Giannis, basically.
Yeah.
You know, he's got the mindset of a guard, kind of. So,
Yeah.
you know, as long as he chooses to, you know, excel in everything that he does, then, you know, his ceiling is as high as it can be.
Yeah, no doubt. I want to ask you about a couple of your other teammates, too. I mean, there was a lot of question marks about what the guard play would be this year after the graduations from last season. Darius Brown, Robert Ford have come in, and they've really stabilized things. Tell us what it's like working with Darius Brown. What kind of point guard is Darius Brown?
Darius is great. You know, in the beginning of the season, you know, you try and figure him out.
Yeah.
Because obviously we started conference and he's doing things that we haven't seen him do yet.
Right.
You know? So it was just about, as time goes on, we grow together, you learn each other's game. And with him, you know, we're older guys, so it's quicker for us to understand certain things about each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's what we continue to do. You know, and he sees me a lot. He's giving me easy buckets, so, you know, I love Darius.
Yeah, man, that's cool. Did you feel like when did it kind of start to click? Like, obviously his stats in Big Sky play are absurd, but I don't know, do you remember any moments where you're like, okay, this is what we can be?
You know, I think when you lose games and you, like, figure out why, you talk to your teammates, you figure out what you could have done to do better, and then you have to respond to these losses in a positive way. So you can't just immediately look down on each other or look down on your game. You just have to, like, be mature enough to move on and move past the mistakes. And I think once after Canada, spending that time with each other, you know we are a good team.
Yeah.
But, you know, certain things didn't go away, like certain discipline actions, like getting texts.
Yeah.
And, you know, just like getting foul calls, like easy foul calls, like holding someone, you know, stuff like that we can cut out.
Yeah.
And we have older guys, so they listen, and we try and respond and fix, like, that situation, like, you know, actively.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and, you know, when you look at the non-conference you guys played this season and you compare it to maybe even some other teams around the Big Sky, nobody in this conference played the non-conference schedule you all did, going all these places, all these road games, all these tough environments. Is that something you guys want? Like, is that something that you guys really enjoy, being able to go into these tough places, even though it's so difficult to get there and go through it all? Like, is it worth it?
I credit Sprinkle for this. You know, he's made us road dogs, and last year it made us a lot better.
Yeah.
Because it's like being away from the home crowd where no one supports you. That means that the group has to be tighter. It has to be like this, not like, you know, apart.
Yeah.
And we have to come with our own energy. Otherwise, we're going to get smacked. So building that through many road games of losing, winning, it grows character. And now once we're at home, we have, you know, the great fans that we do. You know, it all clicks, and it's even better.
Yeah.
So I think playing on the road is just great. 'Cause it really, like, it makes us better, definitely.
Yeah, get that whole open hand closed into a tight fist together.
Yeah.
All right, I got to ask you a little bit about RaeQuan Battle too, and just what it's like watching him. I mean, what's it like being teammates with RaeQuan? I mean, he's doing things that you don't see. Like, his dunks are crazy. You barely even see that, like, at the NBA level in some of these games. What's it like playing with RaeQuan?
Ray is great, man. He's like my best friend on the team. We talk a lot. You know, we're always watching film together. We're talking about basketball, talking about life, and it's crazy to see how he just progresses. like that. You know, he's always doing crazy stuff in practice anyway.
Yeah.
So like I do see, you know, that time when he hit the game winner, I've seen him do that multiple times.
Right.
I've seen him do crazy ass threes. I played him in ones.
Yeah.
And he's making crazy shots, even though I beat him. So you can, you can add that to the list.
Yeah.
But you know, he's my guy, and like, it's just great to see him playing so well without, you know, all the other things that may be in his head that was in his head last year, you know.
Yeah, what were he kind of talked about it a little bit last week, just what are some of the things you say to him, especially in those moments? Like, he's the best player, one of the best players on the floor. Other teams are going to come after him and try to get him going. Like, what do you say to help keep his focus on what matters in those big moments?
I think Ray listens to me.
Yeah.
So, like, he feels like I have, you know, a good insight on the game. So when I tell him that there's 3 guys collapsing on him, you know, sometimes he's driving, and when I tell him there's 3 guys collapsing on him, it makes him realize that maybe that shot doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe he should slow down and get to his spots, like I tell him, and just slowing down his mind and having someone to tell him that on the court, I think it helps him figure out the game as well. Like, you know, see it in his eyes, and it slows it down because, you know, he's seeing it himself, like, after the fact.
Yeah.
So I think, like, it's just easy to talk to Ray and tell him those things.
Yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun to watch. You're coming up. You're almost at the end of your career here. Still a lot of basketball left before we step aside. What's next? I mean, what's going to happen? What are your goals after you finish up this year?
Well, I'm trying to get a contract.
Yeah,
So,
play overseas or somewhere, anywhere?
I just got to look after my body, you
Yep.
know, stay in the gym, stay focused, and hopefully I'll graduate with my master's as well. So
Yeah.
I'm also trying to just, you know, do as much as I can, really,
Yeah.
by the time May comes.
Well, there's only been one other time Montana State has won back-to-back regular season Big Sky championships in program history. You got a chance to be a part of something special like that this year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right, I love it. Jabril Bello, everybody. Thank you, Jabril.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to step aside, and when we get back, we'll turn our attentions to the first place Montana State women's basketball team with head coach Tricia Binford joining us after this break. We're at Montana's Ribbon Chop House, and you're listening to Cat Chat, presented by Learfield. We are live at Montana's Rib and Chop House for Cat Chat. I'm Keaton Galogly alongside head coach Tricia Binford as we turn our attention to the first place Montana State women's basketball squad. And Coach, a heck of a week. 2 more wins against Portland State and Sac State in that game on Saturday for first place in front of a great crowd. You got to just be loving this. This is everything you work for, right?
I'll tell you what, we love our crowd. Our crowd was desperately needed that game, and that was the loudest the gym's been all season. So it was an amazing, amazing event.
Yeah, that was awesome. And we'll get into that game a little bit. But first, go chronologically here. We'll start with that Thursday game against Portland State. 64-52 win in this ball game. Cola Badbear kicked off her tremendous weekend with 17 points, 6 rebounds. You guys were a little under the weather, so a very short bench. Only 7 players played more than 20 minutes in this game, but found a way to get it done. Well,
it's the advantage of having a bench that you can survive some of those situations. And like you said, we weren't at full throttle, but Grace Beasley started for us that night. I thought she was fantastic. Really came out, gave us a great punch, like you talked about. Cola Bad Bear doing what Cola does. I think going into that second half, I might have tapped you on the shoulder, didn't I? And I said, we need Cola Bad Bear. We need Bad Bear right now in the second half.
Yeah, she's nodding her head, yes.
And so everybody, Cola's here with us tonight. And, Portland State has really vastly improved. They lead the conference in steals per game in a very extended zone. Looks a little bit like a 1-3-1, then it kind of morphs into a 2-3, and so it was fairly disruptive. But I thought we really started to get our groove in that third, fourth quarter, and played off the crowd, of course. Both ends of the floor, that team really came through strong.
Yeah, and, going from that game into that Sac State game, you got to win that game in order to put first place on the line against Sacramento State, and obviously not the start you were looking for in those first few minutes, falling behind 19-2. You missed the first 12 shots, and we can kind of talk about it because it turned, but, what were you seeing, what were you thinking of those first few minutes, really most of that first quarter?
Well, there were some familiarities from some previous slow starts. We could go back to the NCAA tournament last year where we were kind of ice cold from the beginning against Stanford. We were ice cold the beginning of this year against Arizona State. And with those situations, we took some average early shots. Some were okay. Some just didn't fall. I felt the same way from some of our offensive shot selection. Some of those are great shots, but some of them we could have kind of been a little bit greedier to getting a great shot. But the defense, first 2 possessions, I thought they earned the 3 that they got, and then they got comfortable, and we were just talking over here, and when you're kind of a top team, we're going to get some teams coming in playing their best basketball, and we had some breakdowns defensively, and they exposed us, and they capitalized on every single one. And fortunately for us, they have a short bench. They have a tight bench, got a little bit colder in that second half, and that's when we started chipping away.
Well, even though, there were some defensive mistakes there, it still felt like even as the game went on, the defense was the reason you were able to get back into this game. Think about all of the tips and the steals and those types of things that kind of got that offense going. Felt like that, even though it was a struggle early, was also the thing that kind of turned it around. For sure.
I go back to Grace Beasley again. She led us in deflections for that game. She came in, gave us a great spark. I just remember kind of a possession where we put the ball pressure we needed to have with her and Darian in that mix on a drop action, and we got the steal and kind of got out and running. And sometimes you can get those easy buckets off of a stop, get your crowd going, and get easy in transition. Can really start catapulting some momentum swings, and we were certainly able to do that. We felt some good things happening and developing before half, but really we had to break the game down. It wasn't going to be coming all in one possession, and we had a ways to go, but a lot of back and forth and a lot of great defense like you talked about, but it had to be disruptive.
Yeah, and, still, you didn't get your first lead in this game until, 5 minutes left, Leah Beatty hitting some big free throws. So even though you're kind of still going, it takes a lot of effort and energy just to erase a bigger deficit early on in that game. So it had to be nice, even though some people were a little under the weather earlier in the week, to have that depth and have those legs at the end of the game after coming back from a big deficit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the third quarters have been really critical for us. We've had some games where we've just not been good at the third quarter at all, and then all of a sudden the stretch that we've been playing a lot better, the third quarters have been a major key for us. So that's where our depth has really showed, and it starts kind of presenting itself in that second half. But I'll tell you what, that's the loudest that crowd has ever been. I feel when we took that first lead and we kind of raised our hands and the crowd got on top of it, I thought it was a big difference for us to kind of continue going back and forth, because Sac State didn't go away. It still kept going back and forth. But in that moment, you knew once you got it into that single digits, okay, this is a ball game we can take care of now.
Yeah, I mean, it was about 2,200 or so there, and yeah, they totally rose up in that moment right after taking that lead and as you're getting close. And you guys got to really feel that, because you kind of mentioned it. As it starts to build, the crowd starts to build with it, and that's just so important in these moments because it does. It puts pressure on Sac State because they're feeling confident, but when it starts getting loud like that, that's when you can really start tightening up.
For sure, yeah, they tighten up. We play out the crowd. We got the energy. We got the momentum, and sometimes where you're coming from behind, you have to be the aggressor in all facets, and we're able to do that and play off of that. But, like you said, it wasn't ever like you felt like this game was out of reach. It was just like, okay, when are we going to start just kind of getting into some flow and kind of hit some threes in that third quarter, really started getting going there. But that crowd was a factor, and I felt the crowd was engaged even from the start and just ready to be involved. And you give them one hand signal, this crowd knows exactly what to do. That's what I love about Bozeman and our community. They were fantastic, and like you said, we weren't feeling 100% even though we had our numbers back, but we had a lot of discussion on that. We can either not feel great or we can find a way to have a lot better ball pressure and get the energy we need to get this win.
Yeah, on the offensive end in this game, obviously the missed field goals early in this game, but if you subtract that early run in this game, you finished the ball game going 22 of 40, so you ended up shooting 55% once you finally caught that drought or ended that drought. What did you see from the offense when the moments were big and how you kind of started to get that offense rolling?
Yeah, I think when you get some stops and get out in transition, this team is at its best in that first 10 seconds when they're really just sharing the ball and making each other look good, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I thought Darian White had a really great day for us leading the helm, obviously getting her in the ball screen and attacking the middle of the floor in the paint. But then Leah Beatty, I thought, came in and gave us a very strong day, and it was just kind of putting her in some isolation plays, but just the flow of the offense and the team and how we moved that ball, it changed, and your tempo picks up, you're crashing. We crashed the right way, we moved the ball the right way, we got second sides, and that's when it starts to click, and then your defense picks up when you're having some of that success too. So just it was exciting to see us make that transition, because earlier in the season, we didn't come back from that deficit. So I felt like this team grew up a lot that day.
Yeah, and we're going to talk with Cola Badbeer here in just a moment, but it's so much fun watching her and Lexi Deaton go to work, and also the way when the guards are getting penetration, you see the defense key in on them. They just know how to find that big inside. The interior passing, even though it's maybe a 3 or 4 foot pass, it really threads the needle. That part of the game just, it's beautiful. It's so much fun to watch.
I'll tell you what, that chemistry is special. Post to post there, they've been developing that. I even go back to the Idaho State game. But our post play, our offense, our motion offense is actually designed to go through the post. They're typically our reversals. They're the ones making a lot of those decisions. Thing starts with Darian and Grace up top and a lot of ball screen. But to get the ball reversal and second sides and to attack double teams, they're regularly seeing a lot of double teams in the post play. And we have to face up and we have to cut off of that. They can really find those open players. I think that's just a maturity and a patience that they're really developing. But they definitely know where to find each other.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk with Cola Badbear here in a second, but Coach Tricia Binford, appreciate the time and the insight today.
Thanks a lot.
All right, that's head coach Tricia Binford, and coming up next, we'll talk with Cola Badbear. Universal Athletic has been a proud supporter of Bobcat Athletics for over 45 years. Shop their great selection of Bobcat apparel and accessories for all your game day needs. Shop in-store at their North 7th Avenue location or online at shopmsubobcats.com. Go Cats. All right, we're taking a break. We're sitting in Montana's Ribbon Shop House, and you're listening to Cat Chat, presented by Learfield. We are back one final time at Montana's Ribbon Chop House for Cat Chat. So we're into our final second segment, but save the best for last. I'm Keaton Galogly alongside Cola Bad Bear. Cola, how we doing? How we feeling?
Oh, we're doing good. Ready to get on the road tomorrow.
Yes, yeah, it's going to be Road Warriors here this month, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, how do you handle that? I mean, it's not easy. It is what it is. Everybody has to deal with it. But I don't know, do you have any tips or tricks? What do you tell the freshmen to kind of handle all the travel in this league?
Oh, man, honestly, just to prepare your planners, especially with semester starting and having to get ahead on what days we're going to be missing and letting professors know, I think it's just important to get those weeks straight on from January before we start, because once you hit February, man, you're gone every other week and it just catches up to you.
Yeah, for sure. And so what are you studying? What are you getting your degree in? Where are you at right now with that?
Yeah, I am majoring in community health with a minor in human development, and I am in between whether I want to get my master's in behavior analyst or go to graduate school to get my doctorate as an occupational therapist.
Okay.
Yes.
So what can you do with that? Like, how do you want to use those degrees?
I specifically want to work with children between the ages 2 and 12 at like a pediatric therapy clinic. And honestly, like anywhere would be really cool, but specifically children with additional needs would be what I want to work with. But yeah.
Okay. And you want to stay in Montana, or you want to go out somewhere else?
I would probably stay in Montana just because I'm really close with my family.
Yeah.
But it would be cool to travel like maybe like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or even just go to like a third world country and like do some volunteer work over the summer. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Well,
Yeah.
you know, it wasn't volunteer work when you guys went to Hawaii or anything like that, but it's still a chance to interact with, young kids, with the youth, other young girls, soon to be women.
Yep.
What was that experience like, especially when they get an opportunity to see you out and what you all can do when you do get an opportunity at the D1 level like this?
Yeah, honestly, it was so cool and just like such a great reminder of how lucky we are and how fortunate we are. And just going to this university and from this community, it was so cool to talk to them, just because I remember conversations like they were just like, oh, you're from the States? Like, we've never been. Or asking them where they want to go. They're like, anywhere in the States. Like, we've never left the island. And just for me, it was like my first time there. So I had a lot of questions for them as well. And so it was just so fun to connect with their culture and their community and who they are as people, and just to hear their aspirations was just very humbling and just like a great reminder of why I do what I do.
Yeah, definitely. What was it like for you when you were a young girl? I mean, here you are now. You're a leader on this team, a leader in the community, having these opportunities. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. It's special. And there were a lot of people who did blaze the trail in order for you to have these opportunities. So what do you remember when you were a young girl, a young athlete? What were some of the role models you had, and who were some of the people maybe that motivated you to reach these heights?
Yeah, I mean, for me specifically, just growing up and watching like Shoni and Jude Schimmel, who played at Louisville for their collegiate careers, they had this documentary as their mom was the coach for high school, and they grew up on this reservation. And so it's super cool to see and watch, especially because I'm from the reservation, and just seeing like them, like watching them do it. It's like, oh, like I can do it too. And just like this little native girl, from the Crow Res, like just thinking and dreaming big and wanting to travel. And I knew my way to do that was probably with an athletic scholarship in basketball. And that's something that my dad had started with me at a very young age. And I have 2 older sisters, so we were always outside, whether that was playing softball, riding bikes, cross country, or basketball. And so I've always just kind of been in the competitive field. And being the youngest of 2 siblings, I had to kind of make my own mark because I was always smaller. But so I think just kudos to like my siblings and my dad for putting me into sports. And then just watching like Shoni and Jude were 2 specific people that I looked up to and continued to throughout high school, because I watched them go overseas and play a couple years in WNBA, and now they have their own books. And so it's pretty cool to look at and just to think back to what I looked up to as a kid, and then just hoping I can do the same for young girls.
Yeah, no doubt. That stuff is really cool. And you mentioned growing up on the reservation, now having an opportunity to play here. Raekwon Battle grew up on a reservation as well. Now he's a star here playing D1 hoops. How do you feel Montana State is a place for natives, Native Americans, and indigenous people who can come here? How does Montana State support you and kind of help uplift your culture and where you come from?
Yeah, I think it's pretty special having coaches like Coach Ben who highlight and admire just me outside of basketball and as a person and who I am. So it's just really easy for me just to go to her and she's wanting and so open to things that I aspire outside of basketball and for my community especially. And I think it's easier too because coming into Montana State University, I knew there was going to be quite a few Native Americans that attended, but I had not known there was clubs and organizations for it. And there's actually American Indian Council that's super big on campus, and they just have their, now with the new building, the American Indian Hall. So it's super big, and it's just this huge student common area where anyone is welcome, and they just have food sources, and they just have a bunch of activities going on every day, late at night, early in the morning. They practice cultural traditions, we smudge if we want. They pray for us. They have all the flags of all the different tribes in Montana and just over whatever states from different reservations that kids come. And I think that just kind of gives me a sense of community of being back home too as well, because I get to talk with other people who know my language, know my culture, who are also from the same reservation. So it's a pretty easy transition for me. And then just having obviously my teammates who just remind me a lot of my sisters.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool to be able to hear how that's so uplifted, and you have a place where you can practice that culture and make sure that it's rich and you know it down to the T, so you can continue to pass it on.
Yeah.
I do also want to talk about something maybe on a little bit more on the negative side as well. We do have a couple of the games coming up with the awareness game. So No More Stolen Relatives awareness game is this Saturday for the men. No More Stolen Sisters game is coming up on February 11th when you guys host Idaho State. What do these games mean to you, and what do these organizations mean to you as well?
Yeah, it's pretty big to have the men's basketball team participating in this year especially. And it just means a lot for me from having or feeling the support from MSU athletics and the community in general, because a lot of people are touched by basketball, whether that's just Bozeman fans or just across all of Montana. And so it's super cool that they get to highlight this issue that needs more awareness, especially with 7 reservations in Montana. Not a lot of people know how many people or reservations are in Montana, and so to highlight this issue, people are more aware and can look out for that. So it's pretty special.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad we're going to give you that, Mike. It's definitely more than basketball, and can't wait to see how the rest of this February finishes for you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Awesome. Cola Bad Bear, appreciate the time and looking forward to the rest of the season. All right, so that will wrap things up. So the men are home this weekend. Women are on the road at Northern Arizona and Northern Colorado. Thank you to head coach Danny Sprinkle, Tricia Binford, Jabril Bello, and Cola Bad Bear as well. For Will Gordon, this is Keaton Galogly saying so long, and we'll talk to you soon. This has been Cat Chat presented by Learfield. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Not too demanding.
No, not at all. I was expecting a lot more.
Oh, yeah, no, we keep it easy.
Yeah,
It's not a test.
Yeah.
Tell me about this X and that. Oh, no.
Yeah, no, and I was thinking back to the games, when you were talking with her, and I'm honestly, I was telling Todd, I was I blacked out in half of the games. I couldn't even tell you, what happened 5 minutes in, It was
Right.
so much film.